Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Out on a Limb podcast with your hosts, Samantha and yours truly, and Mr. Will over there.
How you doing?
Welcome back, or welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about healing the healer. So we're going to take this conversation in a couple of different directions.
Okay.
And the first question that we're going to kind of tackle is, do we need to be healed before doing healing work?
I almost
How
think we
does
need to
that
have a bell out in front of us going ding? I got it.
as the first one to answer? You're going to be the first to answer?
Right.
You guys can fight each other. Who wants to answer first?
No. So
what do you
ask it again? Like,
what do you think? Do we need to be healed? Do we need to be completely healed? How far along on the healing journey do we need to be before we actually
Start doing the work.
Right.
It's a good question.
Well, isn't part of the journey that we're taking is the process of healing? And as long as you're, oh my God, we get really deep on this. As long as we're in the, in the human condition, are we ever truly
Healed.
Because I mean, like, okay, so let's take it to Jesus, and like, was he all the way healed and that's why he was able to do things he did? Or did he have a few, emotions that kind of kept him? I mean, he had some moments of doubt.
Yes, he did.
So, but maybe he just cleared those up. But anyway, the moment you said that, all of a sudden that all sparked in my head, and I'm going, whoa, we get really deep.
Well, if we all wait till we're like Jesus, we aren't going to be doing much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, So what about,
So yeah, is it 20% healed or 90% healed or
and how would you even know that? Right?
Well,
How would you even measure
that? I like to tell on myself. I mean, I guess good personal examples are the best examples. We started doing this work, 2015? Yeah, 16?
We started awakening around then.
Yeah,
we weren't doing the work
That's
yet.
right. That's when we weren't doing the work.
2018.
Right? Yeah, so 2016 is actually when we started doing the work. That's when
Reiki work, yes.
Reiki
Okay.
work. That's when the Reiki for vets started to take place. And, all through that period of time and even up to this point, there are moments that I contemplate, and it's not, am I worthy, but am I looked at differently? Because I don't ever recall going through a dark night of the soul, right? One of these existential crisis things that this completely flips you on your lid and you got to dig your way out and do all these things. And
stop bragging.
right. Sorry, but that's my reality, right? That's my truth. And, so that's something I struggle with, but no, am I healed? No, I still have plenty of things that need to be worked on. I know that. And if I am honest with myself, then it's my personal challenge to take that on and dig into it. And I don't want to say heal it, but recognize it and move beyond it. Because, healing, what does that mean? Oh, well, are you going to be miraculously healed of everything that you've done wrong and you burdened with and all this stuff? Or do you come to grips with it, and do you make amends with it, and do you energetically then balance it out to where it now is an effective tool in your tool belt?
Sounds like coming to peace with it.
Right. So do you necessarily need to heal some existential crisis, or do you need to come to terms with it and learn from it and explore it for your benefit? I think that's more appropriate but that I'm not taking anything away from anybody else. This is just my own personal experience. I know plenty of people that have had those crises and have come out, rocking it, right? They come out of the other side of it and they are just amazing at what they do.
It doesn't mean they're fully healed.
No, I think right.
Right.
I think it is a paradigm, right? I mean, not a paradigm, but I don't know the word. English, it's a difficult language, but it's
paradox.
Well, no,
paradox.
No, not a paradox, but it's a line, right? There's or a scale. I don't think there is 100% healing that takes place until
while you're in a human
right
form.
until you transition, right?
Well, and backing up to what you just said, like you haven't had the dark night of the soul, but you've had things that you need to heal from, or that you find that you're healing from. And I've been through the dark night of the soul and all that kind of stuff. And that's brought out the stuff, my weaknesses and all that kind of stuff. But I think it kind of, it's all relative to one's own experience. I remember saying to my kids one time that just because, this person went through this, which most people go, oh, that's heinous. And this person went through this, which doesn't seem as bad. It's still just as bad to that person's perspective, because it's their personal experience. So I guess when we talk about this whole topic, it's really in relation to yourself, not to anyone else.
Good point. Very good point.
But in that, it then comes down to, how do you feel about being judged, right? Because as we place ourselves in front of people, that does play a factor with a lot of people, where, well, I don't know if I can trust that person because they didn't really go through the same things I did, or that kind of thing.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I really, and this is where I really appreciate my counseling background, because this is a lot of the stuff that we talk about. So for example, when you're going to be a counselor, does that mean, and I'm talking about a therapist, a normal 3D therapist, does that mean you have had to have gone through a divorce or through some sort of trauma or abuse to be able to help people in those situations? Do you have to have undergone every situation that your clients might present to you with to be an effective counselor? I would argue absolutely not. There's no way you can be.
Right.
But there are certain skills that you can use that are consistent from client to client to client. And so when you're dealing with this realm, the spiritual realm, it's the same situation. You don't have to have gone through every circumstance that your clients are going to present with to be able to help them. But coming from that place of compassion, having some tools that are appropriate in your toolbox, you can work with them. So
yeah, that's a good point.
It's more of an energy thing.
Yes.
Like your energy, well, obviously it needs to be in alignment with the client, or the client, that alignment has to occur for it to be a healing process. And if you want to take that one step further, since we're really just being a mirror to for ourselves, or we're all one, and you can go into this whole thing of, it's just, you're talking to yourself, you're really having a conversation, healing yourself, and no one else is involved. I don't know, like it starts getting super trippy, but I think it all boils down to energy. And can you be in that space? Can you hold the space for your client? And can you hold that space in love?
Right.
Which is the highest energy you can offer. So can you be that compassion? Can you be, it's not that you have to so much understand the plight. You're going to say the right things. You're going to, if you're truly in that energy, in that space. But then that's the question. You've got to ask yourself, am I doubting that the words, because I've been there where when I started doing, opening up my mediumship and intuitive work, when I started expanding that into life coaching, I was sitting there going, I'm going to have people repeatedly coming back to me, and I got to hold my own, and I don't know what I'm going to say, And so I wasn't sitting there like I would in intuitive or mediumship work, just holding that space with love. I was a nervous wreck, doubting myself. Yeah. And once I was able to relax, then of course all the intuitive stuff started coming in, and it was fun. So it's that space, that energy you're holding for that person. That's the thing. Can you do that?
Right.
And I was going to say, that's also a really good point. We aren't doing the healing. And when you remember that and you take the ego out of it, and you're allowing your intuition, your guides, their higher self to inform the session for you and to work through you. All healing is self-healing. So like you said, you're only holding space. You're holding space in love and compassion, and you're allowing your guides and that intuition to work through you. Yep,
creating a container in which you're going to help facilitate whatever's going to take place. That's all we really are, facilitators, to build a container that a client's going to come and sit in, or virtually via Zoom, and then facilitate any healing from that point. And like you said, all that healing is really coming from themselves. We're just opening the channels and the pathways to allow that to happen. You
said something about recognition. And so rather than thinking about it in terms of being healed enough to work with a client, what do you think about this idea of recognizing our weaknesses, or whatever you want to call them, our weaknesses or our roadblocks or our biases or those unhealed portions of ourself, at least being in touch with ourself enough to know where those might be problematic so that you can navigate a little bit better?
Well, I think that I'm thinking back on my own personal journey with other, healers and stuff. And I've met people who they can hold that space and they're amazing, but their life's a mess. And so it was nice to have that space. But yeah, you do turn around and look at it and just go, but now how much do I believe in what I've learned about myself because of this person who is actually a drunk or just whatever it is, just they've got a messy marriage, like, how people go to divorce,
marriage
counselors, and then you find out, oh, they're divorced, and they're and you're kind of going, okay,
right.
They're on their fourth marriage, and so
right,
forth.
Right.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know.
That's I get that. I mean, that's a struggle. It's myself as a mechanic, if I roll up to the shop with my car and the shop has 72 broken down cars and the lids, the lids are open on them and the engines are all in disrepair, I'm going to turn around.
Or if it's really super dirty, that kind of thing.
Right. Or if I drive up and it's like it looks like an operating room, right? It's nice and clean and everything. Well, I'm going to expect a certain level of care, right? But, I then again, I also know some of the best mechanics are some of the most disorganized and,
Geniuses,
yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, and I think that plays in our space as well. There's a lot of people. Well, I mean, when we first started out, we were like, well, I don't want to, when I was doing my mediumship, well, I don't want to drink the day before. I don't want to have a drink, all this. And I had parameters set around there. But then we started meeting other mediums.
Like drink regularly.
Go, at lunch, let's grab a beer and then have a session 4 hours later, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, so where do you find yourself? How do you justify that in yourself? And really what it comes down to is your own, we talked about this previously, integrity, right?
Yes.
Where does your integrity lie? And what space are you building for yourself? And what space are you building for the client? And anything outside of that, I don't think it comes down to how much you're healed. It's how authentic, how genuine, and how ethical you are when you and how you present that.
Here's another thing that just popped into my mind that's interesting because, for example, we interviewed Candace Kroll-Goldman, and I remember her telling me a while back, she wears glasses that are pretty powerful prescription, and she is a powerful healer, and yet she was unable to heal her own eyes. And when she would ask her guides about it, and forgive me if I get the story wrong, but I think I recall it correctly enough. But they told her that if her vision was perfect, then her inner vision wouldn't have been as good. And so the eyesight was purposeful. So when you look at somebody and you want to judge perhaps their level of healing, there might be something that you don't understand, right? And so we can't judge what we see superficially anyway, or what we think we know anyway. For example, you see somebody who's very overweight. Okay, well, if they're such a good healer, how come they can't lose weight, or how come they can't be in shape, or whatever.
Right.
So there are reasons that go way beyond what we understand.
Yeah.
And so really it comes back down to, I think, that resonance. We purposefully intersect with the people that we need, with the healers. And even if we find a healer that ends up being not good for us,
there's a reason why.
There is a reason, because I think we've all experienced that, and we had lessons that we needed to learn, right?
Yeah.
Reflective moments that we needed to learn something. And I agree with that. And the one thing I'll throw into that mix, again, we did the short on it, but it is that discernment, right? If you're, and this is, I guess, a helpful hint, whatever you want to call it, for anybody that's looking to go get, work done, or go see a practitioner. It's not about how flashy their business card is. It's not about how, pristine their shop is, or what they look like, or anything like that. how do you resonate?
Yep.
How do you feel?
Go within.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, use your own ability, your own intuitive sense. And people say, well, I don't have intuitive sense. Yes, you do. You use it every day. From the choice of the socks you pick out in the morning to the underwear you put on, you're using some sort of intuitive ability to do that, right? Because you're doing some other activity with it. So, you know, it's that it comes down to your vibrational connection to that individual. If you see their business card and it lights you up and it fires you up and you just know there's an energetic connection there, go see that practitioner.
And what you're saying is like what happens many times is we get into a frenzy. And that's what there are a lot of practitioners who do this, who like get people excited, give them a time limit of when they can join. And, or they get this whole, you know, all these people saying all these great and wonderful things about them. And yet it kind of doesn't feel right, but everybody else is going along. So you're like, I got to go do this too. And it's, you know, we have gone from this crowd mentality. And if anything, hopefully 2020, you know, 2021 kind of helped us to go and listen within a little bit more and, you know, step up to the plate and trust our own selves a bit more. Because we have to, it's like you have to, again, I keep saying this, you have to get into that neutral space and go, you know, does this feel right for me? Is this beneficial for me? Sure, it'd be fun to do this with my friend or, you know, this group of people. But what are you really looking to get out of it? And how is it right for you at this time? I think that one's super important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, discernment. And we have a mini on discernment. You can watch it again.
Yeah. It's just, well, so we go back. I mean, when you're talking about the healing, go back to the healing topic. You know, there's two different things we're looking at is the healing of the practitioner, and then the person coming in to be healed. But that's not what I was going to say. And now I can't remember. Sorry. No, but taking the healing of the practitioner, to me, it's like, you know, yes, I think, okay, no, you do not need to have had the experience in order to be effective.
Yeah.
That being said, caveat is that it helps to have used the tools. Or let me put it this way. I know a lot of people who desire to be healers and they found something that works for them and they're super excited. It's turned them on, it's ignited them. And now they have the opportunity to be an affiliate, get the training and then go out and offer it to other people. And an awareness that was given to me through a channeling session was that my guides were saying that that the people were looking at this form of healing going, oh my God, this is so amazing. I want to share it with everyone. And then they were like, oh, but I'm cut. It bleeds. It hurts. You know, this is still so good for other people, but I'm going to set it here and just teach other people the tool and not actually utilize the tool and bleed themselves. You know, it's like, yes, it cut because there was something impactful, insightful, and healing generally comes with a little bit of pain.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's like, if you're going to utilize a tool to share with other people, so whether you've been through the thing or not, you can find any of these tools and you can apply them to yourselves and fully get versed in it before sharing it with other people. That's where I would be, that's how I would think that someone who hasn't been through the experience, if they've at least gone through and utilized the tool in some facet of their life, that then they benefit. But I think a lot of people get these things and they just rush out and go, this was super cool and I'm going to share it with others. And then that's where the authenticity, imposter syndrome comes from.
Yeah. Well, I guess that leads down to another path too of that. And I've got two thought streams, two separate
Hopefully
thought
you'll
streams.
remember yours.
Yeah, I think so. So the first one is, you know, that aspect of the shiny new toy, right? The shiny new healing aspect. Oh, I just learned all this stuff. I want to get it out there to other people. When do you start charging, right? When do you start charging, or how many free sessions do you do? How many volunteer sessions do you do? That kind of thing, or none at all. You know, that's been a topic that we talk about quite often. It's like,
that's a challenging one,
right? When are you ready to start having people pay for your services. That might be another whole nother podcast.
Well, and
on
that
itself,
also
but
circles back around to this money block that a lot of us have, and that we shouldn't be charging. We feel deep
Right.
down we shouldn't be charging for spiritual work.
Well,
that's
but that's one aspect. That's not part of the healer's aspect.
right. That's a whole nother
Yeah,
topic.
yeah. Which we got to remember to bring
Right.
that one up.
Yeah, so that'll be a good. That kind of just came in.
But that
as
is
we're
a good
talking.
point in terms of when should you start when are you good enough, or when are you experienced enough, or when are you healed enough, or when should you start
Yeah.
charging for your services?
So
Yeah.
so take out the money aspect of it.
Right.
Mhm.
When should you start having an exchange of something?
Good point. Yeah. Yeah.
So
a good point.
whether it's a trade or whatever, and I think that there's, again, when you feel like you're authentically delivering an experience, and like, you can't take the responsibility that, well, someone didn't get healed, these 5 did, but that one didn't, because it's the
Mhm.
clients, they're showing up whether they want that actual healing or not. They're showing up, and it's up to them. But it's, I think that that's where it lies, within your feeling authentic and ready to present.
Mhm.
I mean, you have to have the experience, but once you reach that level, then there should be a great comfort level. I know people say, no, you should go and do it earlier, and just charge a little bit. And I know I started off that way.
Sure.
But I also started off only charging $25
Yeah, I mean-
and worked my way up.
Right.
Well-
and I think, to that extent, I think
Mhm.
that's I think an appropriate approach, a very minimal amount, because there is an energy exchange that does take place, whether you want to compensate it with money or you want to compensate it with, in-kind services or whatever. Right.
Mhm.
It's what we've run across in the past is, some practitioners, they jump right out there and start charging hundreds of dollars for something they just got. The ink isn't even dry on the certificate. Right. So it's that kind of quandary, and that's kind of where I'm going with that. The other
Mhm.
aspect of that, and I'll try to bring that back around, is the second topic you were talking about, the bleeding, and the healing is going to hurt at times, right?
Yeah.
It is. And how have I experienced that? Yes, I've experienced that. And that, I think, is more critical to the healer's healing journey
Mm.
than saying having an existential crisis that
Sure.
completely rocks your head.
Doesn't matter how you come to the healing
Right.
journey.
It's right. It's having those moments where you need to go see a practitioner, and you don't know why, but you need to go see them,
Mhm.
and it completely rocks your world.
Yeah.
And it changes you profoundly and moves you. If you were a chessboard, it moves you up one piece, right? It moves you into one slot that's higher than you were before.
Mhm.
And I think that's the most effective, for myself, at least. Again,
So you're saying, as a practitioner going in to
Yes.
get healing,
yes.
to expand their own,
Yeah, and not even knowing what you just are feeling called to go get healed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or
Like
go
I
get
did with
services,
Judy.
right?
Yeah.
You just feel like you need to go get some services by another practitioner. You don't know why, you just do. And when you get there, then you get your mind rocked, or
Yeah.
your world rocked, or your emotions rocked, or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
and have one of those moments that go, that's why I was there. I
Right.
needed to clear that out
Yeah.
for my next step forward.
So in other words, you need to keep going. I mean, you need to keep looking for those moments when something feels like
Right,
stuck.
When-
right.
as-
It's
yeah.
honoring that feeling, or that welling of, okay, I got to get some service. I got to get some
Or there's
sort of
something
work
going
done.
on here. And you notice it's like a spiral. You'll come back around and you'll be like, God darn, I thought that I had healed that. But there's another level of that same thing, and then another level of that same thing. And it gets a little bit easier and easier as you go. But like we said earlier,
It's like the 101
never,
class, the 102 class, the 103 class, right?
It's never
just-
gone as long as you're in a body.
and I think that's, it's that healing spiral that just, because you always gain so much more insight, you grow that
Yes.
much stronger, you get so much more, capability to assist
Yes.
other people. It's like unlocking those levels.
Mhm.
you know?
Exactly.
So you've
Exactly.
got to, I think that there is a point, as as someone mentoring others, going through this stuff, that something clicks, and you just know the moment you feel any block in your body, you're going to attack it. You're going to
Mhm.
go and you're going to ferret that out, because that on the other side of that is going to be freedom
Yeah.
and, and leveling up and all that kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
never not that,
Right.
So it's a great experience to go through.
Well, some of us take a little longer to understand that pattern, myself included. I'd go through moments where, I wouldn't want to do any of this work. Right. Right. I didn't know I needed any healing or any work done. I just didn't want to do this work. Oh, you want to do some Reiki, Amy? Nope. You want to do this? Nope. You want to go see? Nope. It was just like, let me unplug. I don't want to do any of this stuff.
But you do go through some peaks and valleys.
And that's what I had to learn. So it was one of those valley points where I just needed to disconnect from this realm for just a short amount of time. But in that, I gained so much insight because popping out the other side, I was just that much stronger.
Leveling up.
Right. I was leveling
But it's
up.
recognizing those moments also that might be a trigger for healing.
Yes.
So I think rather than it being so important that the healer be healed per se, it's about having enough self-awareness to know when, again, recognizing what might be triggers for you or what might be biases and noticing when they start to come up so that you can work on them and having the willingness to work on it, because it's not easy. It can be devastating sometimes.
Especially if you think you've already worked on it.
Yeah.
And when it's an exceptionally painful thing and you're like, good God, haven't we done this already?
Right. Why do I got to go through this again?
Yeah.
But, for me, it's also kind of a touchy subject, this whole topic, because early on in our journey, when we were first awakening, we did come across a practitioner who had some really deep healing that needed to take place. And we didn't trust our gut. We went into relationship with this person, and I understand.
So your gut was saying
no.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was a huge lesson early on in our journey to trust our gut and to not follow a guru.
Right.
And so it was necessary. I know that I contracted with that person to have that lesson, but at the same time, it was so devastating because both of us experienced this at the same time that Will, early on in his journey, was like, forget it. If this is what this is like and this is how people are, I don't want any part of it. Well, he would not have been sharing these gifts with the world.
Yeah.
He didn't even know at that time he was a channeler.
That would have been, that would have been 2017-ish, somewhere around there, 2016, 17.
So to me, I still have a little bit of a bit of a spot for practitioners that I know who are not healed, who are out there working with vulnerable people, and people who are early on in their awakening are vulnerable. Now I get it. That's their contract. That's their path. And if they have to come in to learn a lesson with that person, but from a human standpoint, it still hurts my heart when I see vulnerable people. And I don't say anything. I don't. Well, I do not badmouth other spiritual practitioners. I will not do that.
I was just going to ask you. So maybe, for a little bit of clarity on that. So we've also run across a number of other people that have brought this individual's name up, right? That they were going to go have services done or take classes.
And I might discreetly say, now that I've been in this work for a while, well, based on what I know about you, I'm not sure that person is the best fit or would resonate with you. Maybe you could try this person. And that's all I'll say. But I will not say why, or I won't say anything bad about that person. But it still is challenging for me when that happens, because again, I know how devastating it was to you when you were first awakening. And people who are starting to awaken are super vulnerable.
Here's a challenge though, is what was not right for y'all could have turned around to be so great for someone else. So it's almost like you just have to, I liked how you worded that. And I was like, well, could you just say, if that person resonates with you, then go for it. But then people,
absolutely.
all they're going to hear is, go for it, No, so it's like how you deliver it. Just take a moment and really feel. And they go, well, wait, what are you saying? No. Does this really feel expansive? Does this really feel good to you? Or is there anything in you kind of going, I'm on the fence, and I'm not going to say it's up to you. I'm just saying that's how you should approach everyone.
Really good point. Really good point.
That's an excellent point. That's exactly, and that's what I was getting at earlier is, it's not how flashy their card is. It's not how bright their sign is out in front of their shop. How do you feel?
Yeah.
What does your gut tell you? Does it say, is there a question? If there's a question mark, anywhere in your discernment process of whether you should go see that practitioner or not, Then probably
then pause,
not.
just pause.
Pause for a moment.
And I remember thinking, I with my first marriage, I was just like, I should not be with this person. What am I doing? And yet checking in with myself, not realizing that's what I was doing. I just, it was that feeling of, nope, this is the path forward.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
trust. And that was the first time that I can recall that trust, having faith, because everything was screaming no, except deep down inside, the people didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing.
Right.
But deep down inside, it was like, this is part of the journey, trust. And so that's why I did that, and it's like, so yeah, you need to apply it to.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I've always listened to it.
Right. And even with potential clients that might reach out to us and the students that we teach in our Reiki classes, we do tell them, sit with this in your heart. Like I might email somebody who's on the fence about a session or which type of session or whatever, or can you recommend a practitioner? And I always tell them, sit with that in your heart. So that was a good point. See how it resonates. How does it feel to you? Does it feel like a yes, like you said, or does it feel like a no? And it may or may not be us.
Right.
Well, and one of those signals may be, and we're kind of coming off a little bit of the healing part of it, but again, it's if you're in a current space of, yes, I feel healed and complete, I may be going through another thing coming up soon, but right now I'm feeling good and complete. If somebody comes to you, if that person you go to starts saying, no, I think we should work together. Nope, we're definitely good together. If they don't stop and say, well, check with yourself, see if this really feels good
give
to
you
you.
back the power.
Yeah, because somebody who's healthy and currently healthy in their right mind, in that space, in that loving space, holding that space for you, they're going to hold whatever is best for you, whatever you feel is the right thing to do for you. Whereas somebody who's not, who's off balance, who's in fear of lack, money, needs that prestige, they're going to instead just be like trying to grab a hold of you every which way they possibly can.
Yeah, and there was another interesting lesson that I learned early on in my awakening. We've referred to Hay House Radio, and they had, I don't know what's up with Hay House. I haven't listened to them in years, but on the beginning of my journey, they had a lot of good speakers, and one of them was Sonia Choquette. She's still, I think, pretty heart-centered. But I managed to get on the radio show while she was presenting, and she answered my question. And one of the questions that I had was, I've always visioned myself speaking in front of large groups, like on stage somewhere and talking, presenting. I'm an educator at heart. I like to talk to people. I like to write. I like to present. And, but this self-worth issue would come up, and I would think somebody in the audience might be going, but she's not even, or she's done this, or did you see her? She blah, 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 judging me because I am not perfect and I'm not ever going to be perfect. And so am I worthy enough to be up on stage teaching people if I'm not healed, or if I have problems, or I've had a bad day and cursed somebody out, or whatever it is. And she said, here's the thing. We all have two paths that we're walking in any given incarnation. One is either your karmic path, or you're learning what it is you're trying to heal and experience in this life for yourself and your own growth. And the other one is your mission, your purpose, what you're supposed to teach people. And so they're going along parallel throughout your life. And so this karmic learning experiential path is always going to be there. You're never going to be at the end of it. And if you wait until you're at the end of it, or till you're fully healed to start this mission, you're going to be dead and you're not going to be starting your mission.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you need to do both. And I think just recognize, like we've talked about, recognize any triggers, recognize where you need healing, be mature enough and trust enough to be able to go through those healing moments yourself.
Yeah, and it comes down to what we talked about earlier about authenticity. It's if you're going to do this work, you have to be as authentic as you possibly can. Not possibly, as authentic as you are.
Step in, step into that space.
Because people are going to read that authenticity before they read anything else that comes out of your mouth.
Okay, so I got a good question for you. So because to me, it's so important to me. I keep saying, I want to walk my talk, and people have heard that expression for the longest time. That has to do with being your authentic self. So what do you do when you see practitioners, like maybe, teams, whatever, or maybe it's a collective, a group or whatever, where you're like, wow, that person walks their talk, but then the other person, you're kind of going, that doesn't fit. Then what do you like, I'm just wondering, like, how does the person gauge, like, if they're working with a team and you've got one person who's really on top of it, another one who's kind of flaking off.
How do you balance that? How do you navigate that?
Yeah. I mean,
it's interesting because this happens when I listen to there are a few channelers or a few spiritual leaders out there that I listen, not many at all anymore, but there are a few. And sometimes one of them that I really trust will pull in something onto their website, perhaps, or their Facebook or something from another person, from another channeler or another spiritual leader that I don't resonate with, that I don't think is truthful or heart-centered. And I'm like,
what are they doing?
What?
Infiltrated.
How they must be okay if this person that I trust thinks they're okay. But, so that is tough.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I can't say that I've run across that, but I'm also very...
Well, you don't listen or watch.
No, but I mean, like if I were to meet a group of people, right? And I'm a pretty good judge of character, right? I mean, that my previous life in the military is doing law enforcement for 20 something years.
Yeah.
You get accustomed to becoming familiar with people's character, their authentic self.
Yeah.
When you have that mismatch in a group of people, for me, I kind of neutralize, meaning I go into it in a very neutral place just to see, okay, well, is it truly something that they're saying that I don't resonate with, or is it something that they're saying completely wrong? I can't say that because I don't know everything.
Yeah, I was about to say,
right?
That sounds judgmental.
Right. So I have to go into it very neutral, and I have to balance between the two people or the group of people that are kind of maybe disconnected between them, but they're in the same group, because there's something that I'm supposed to learn even from that other group.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
But what it is, I might not learn right at that moment while I'm with them. It might be after I leave, because I've witnessed something. Best way to say it is for myself. And again, I have to talk about myself. When I first joined the military as a very young recruit and a very young enlisted member, and having the people that were in charge of me, I always looked up to them as, okay, they're my superiors. I have to look up to them. But I took a mental note or Rolodex of the things that I liked about what they did and the things that I didn't like about what they did.
Which we all do, yeah.
Right. And I kept that running Rolodex of those things. So when I get to that pay grade, I'm not like that person. Right. So same kind of balance. When I see two groups of people, even though they're in the same grouping, and they're doing the same work, but yet half of them are just, there's a different feel, and the other half. And then I observe and I watch, and I'm like, okay, well, you know what? There are some good characteristics over here.
Yeah.
I'll take a couple of those things, but the rest of it, I'm going to leave in the garbage pile. Over here, you know what? There's a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of garbage in that too. And you start to discernment, right? You start making the balance of what is actually authentic in the two groups. And that's just how I approach everything. And it isn't just in this field, it's in everything I do.
Well, I remember coming to an event, coming to an event, and there was this woman who brought in another person to do a presentation, and the woman who was bringing the other person in, she was really together with it, kind of, and I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And then the person she brought on, I was like, what in the world has happened? And, I'm talking.
Oh my gosh.
There we go. Anyway, so, it immediately, for me, I was trying to separate the two, but I was kind of like, well, if you're into this person, then what does that say about you? Like, if this is who you're willing to bring to this group, this is who you're willing to prop up, then what does this say about you? And I had a very hard time rectifying that. And I just finally was like, well, now I don't want to really know, because I was just getting to know her. So I was kind of like, I don't need to learn more if this is, if this was her discernment.
If that's a true reflection of what you are doing.
Right. And I know what you're talking about, and it's very similar to what I'm talking about with the Facebook, and somebody that I trust brings in somebody that I don't trust, and what the heck, who am I supposed to trust? And again, that's going within and using your discernment. And if you still feel that you can trust the first person, go for it. If you feel like that clouds it, then trust yourself and just let both of them go for now, because it might be that you circle back and you're okay with both of them, or the first one finally figures it out. Yeah. And maybe that's her learning or his learning, and they separate themselves because they're not far enough along that they've used their own discernment. I don't know, but I think, again, that discernment is important.
Yep.
And
heal. We were just talking about, your journey healing, how you have highs and lows. Well, that doesn't mean that, those people are like, you can't go, are you at the top of your game? Or are you kind of having a problem right now?
Where's your scorecard? I want to see your scorecard.
Well, like anything that we're doing together, like, we don't know if one of us is going through a slump, but generally if you are, you kind of back off, you do the healing, and then you step back in. You don't.
This brings up another good point. It is how do I even say this? It's being true to yourself, right? So if you're the practitioner, the healer, and you're going through some muck, some crud, and you're healing yourself, should you be putting yourself out there to be working with others while you're going through that healing process? Should you be honoring yourself to the point at which you pull yourself back so you can do that healing work? And for myself, before I see a client, or every time I see a client, I have to check in with myself to say, is this going to be a solid session, or do I need to maybe postpone? And it's an honest thing I go through, whether I'm doing a mediumship session, a psychic session, a channeling session, a Reiki session, it doesn't matter what it is. A couple hours before, I check in with myself. Am I on my game today? Am I having an honest, true, good day today? Luckily, I haven't had to say, no, I'm not. I need to push it. Well, no, actually, I've had a couple.
Well, only when you had severe back pain.
Yeah, it was debilitating to the point where I couldn't see clients. But I mean, energetically, it's always been, I find that space that says, yep, you're good.
But then that's the difference between old paradigm and new paradigm. Yeah. Because new paradigm, we're like, the money will come, we'll be fine. Right. We may not be wealthy, but we are abundant.
Right.
And we're here to do the work. And so I am going to check in and realize I can't provide the space I need to, so I'm going to back off. Old paradigm is, I got to make the monies, and you're going to show up come hell or high water.
Right.
And so hopefully we are going through an experience with this ascension and all that, all this awakening and, coming to terms with the energy of how we really work, that people can learn, to just go, I got to take myself off the market for a little bit.
Because I'm going through,
because otherwise, I mean, how could you not feel like a fraud in front of somebody? You know, it's like, I'm trying to heal you, but I got a hangover, it's like,
right. Or
maybe you shouldn't be doing that session.
Or I just had I just got pulled over for something or whatever. And I'm just completely excuse my French, but in a shit mood, and I don't want to deal with this right now.
So, that's part of being a professional, not weathering through it, not efforting through it,
right?
But to recognize it's all energy, and if that energy has gone to shit, that you need to honor that. And like you said, haven't had many of those experiences, because if you do the work, you're
if I come to see you for a session, my expectation is I'm paying you for your professional 100% on energy session.
Yeah, it's about being spiritually mature.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah.
We need to be mature in our spiritual experience.
Yeah, for sure.
In our profession, being professional and being mature. Yeah. But I did want to say that Our guides will often control that for us, as we've talked about in the past.
True, we're not alone.
So if the clients, are peaking and then all of a sudden we take a dip in our clients for a couple of months and we think we're supposed to be back on the upswing and nothing's happening, we're like, well, what the heck? And our guides will say, hey,
Chill.
everything's under control.
Chill.
We got you.
Yeah.
You're going through a valley and you'll
need
come
a
out
break.
and you'll come out amplified and,
Yeah.
leveled up.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So, so this was good because we were able to talk about this from not only ourselves as practitioners and how we should handle this type of thing, but also as clients who are
Clients,
looking for
yeah.
practitioners who are spiritually mature and who, are willing to
For sure.
take care of their own housekeeping, their own
Yeah.
house cleaning, their own
Most definitely.
evolution and leveling up.
For
We
sure.
hope that you guys found this valuable. If you have any questions or any comments, please share, or any experiences that you've gone through that you want to share. We like the comments. We read the comments.
Love that.
Yes.
Feel free to interact or episode requests. If there's anything you want us to talk about, let us know that too. But we thank you guys for spending your time with us. We so appreciate you and we appreciate that. Like and share this. If it's valuable to you, it's going to be valuable to other people who are on their journey of awakening, and we want this to get spread out widely. Hit the notification bell if you want to know about new episodes. They come out every Wednesday. And so until next time, thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Later.
Bye.